Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
And welcome, everybody, to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host for the day, Andrew Cooper-Ryder, back after a 3-week break. To quote the great poet of our times, Slim Shady, guess who's back? Back again. Andrew's back. Tell a friend. And if you've missed me these past 3 weeks, you're like, I haven't heard your voice in 3 weeks. That's because you're not listening to the Andrew Cooper-Ryder Show. I did put out some shows there. The Andrew Cooper-Ryder Show is aired right here on WGTK Sundays at 6. And then also on WBNA Wednesdays at 11. You can also catch it on all major podcasting platforms, on social media too as well. Just head over to theandrewshow.com. Hit the Listen Now tab, and you can see all the places to listen to it. While I've been gone, I put out a few interview episodes I did. One was with 3 of the Senate candidates there, Nate Morris, Andy Barr, and Daniel Cameron. I asked him 10 different questions, including questions about Ukraine, Israel, national debt, immigration. A lot of good questions there. You can check those episodes out. Once again, head over to theandrewshow.com. Listen now. You can also check out an interview I did with Ryan Dotson. He's running for the 6th Congressional District. But on today's show, we'll be digging into some interesting Kentucky stories. Of course, I'll give you some updates on some state spending, where some dollars are going that maybe shouldn't be going, or we should be asking questions with, especially out in eastern Kentucky. We have some coal severance money being put out. We have the state putting $8.3 million into buying up properties in flood zones, which leads to a lot of questions, of course. Some updates on some school taxing fights. Those of you who have listened to me here on WGTK know that I've been following some of the attempted tax recalls going on around the state to fight back against school districts raising those taxes. So we've had one succeed, one fell short. We'll talk about that. Might touch on Fayette County schools. I know Jim did yesterday when he was hosting. He talked about that a bit. I might touch on it only because I posted something on social media. I said the unsayable, something about teachers' pay. And I know it's not popular. We all are supposed to pretend at all times that teachers obviously work 80 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, and are grossly underpaid. And there are some that I do agree are underpaid, especially in our rural areas and some other areas. But I pointed out that there was an elementary school art teacher being paid almost $90,000 a year plus pension plus benefits to teach elementary school kids how to finger paint. And I got attacked for that pretty hardcore. So I will defend myself as well. Also, here's another thing for you. The state Republican caucus there for the state legislators, so that's the Senate and the House Republican caucus there, they had their annual retreat. That's right, they have to retreat away from the voters, of course, get together, powwow behind closed doors about what they are actually going to be doing when they're in session. And so that took place, was it early last week? So I've heard some whispers, some rumors, some talks about what might have came out of that. So we'll mention that, of course, as well. So we'll have all that and more today. But one thing I want to encourage you to do while I'm talking, you've got opinions. Those of you who've listened to the show with me before know, in the last segment, I will answer those text questions. So you can text 502-571-0970. Once again, that is 502-571-0970, 502-571-0970. 0970. You can text in your thoughts, your concerns, your questions. You can text in your critiques, but I'm not going to read them. Actually, there's a guy in the back that screens the text messages, and he doesn't send me the mean ones because he knows I have a fragile ego. So for that reason, don't even bother texting in those ones. But if you have thoughts or comments and you want to hear my thoughts on that, you can go ahead and send that in too as well. But got a packed show, full show for you today, talking about Kentucky politics. We might even have time to touch on this feud going on between Rand, Massey, Trump. I've got feelings about that. So we'll see how many of you hate me after today, because I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to let you guys know how I feel. And some of you may agree, some of you may not. But we'll have these stories when we come back here on Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider. Once again, text in your thoughts, your concerns, 502-571-0970. We'll see you in a second.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And welcome back to Kentucky's Voice, your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider. So before I start off, we're obviously coming into the holiday season. And what do you get that person that you have no idea of what else they would want? Well, of course, you get them what anybody would, which is a gift card. That's a common gift. If you're a grandparent, maybe you buy a gift card for your kid. Well, one of those things that you may want to buy a gift card to includes places like Malibu Jack's. That's a place where you might want to buy a gift card to. Parlor Pizza, 5 Iron Golf, Louisville. Now, what if you could spend $50 and only spend $50 and be able to give a $100 gift card? That would make you the hero of the season, wouldn't it? Well, that's what you can do. If you head over to shoppingkentuckiana.com, once again, that's shoppingkentuckiana.com, you can buy gift cards at half price. Sounds a pretty good deal to me. We're trying to make every dollar stretch during the holiday season. You're sitting down, you're doing that budget. You say, oh man, I've got 100 grandkids. How do I make it work? Well, you can simply spend $50 and get yourself $100 gift cards, or $20, get a $40 gift card. You don't have to spend $50, but get half-price gift cards to places like Malibu Jack's, Parlor Pizza, 5 Iron Golf, Louisville by visiting shoppingkentuckiana.com. So I just wanted to give you guys some shopping advice there. Now, digging into it today, obviously, I make some posts on my social media from time to time, and those of you who follow me, and you can check out KY Cooperrider on X, or just search Andrew Cooperrider on Facebook. You can check out my socials there. But those of you who follow me know I, on a regular basis, am calling out government spending. And one of the things that drives me crazy, because I am a conservative, it used to be a part of the Republican Party platform when it was a very lengthy platform. Obviously, with the Trump, it shortened it up a bit, but this idea is still in there. That is not the role of government to be picking and choosing winners and losers. Essentially, it's not the role of government to sit there and say your business should succeed and yours should not. And one of the ways that I see government doing this so often is when they give handouts, dollar bill handouts to private companies, whether it's large corporations. And, you know, we've talked about how the Kentucky government here gave $410 million to Ford to build the battery plant. That's like cash money to build the battery plant in Glendale battery plant, the Blue Oval SK factory. $300 million of that or so was forgivable loans, and then they gave them free training programs and free land and free property and just a lot of free stuff, right? And I'm sure if you're like me, you wish you too could get $300 million for your business. But that's why government shouldn't be picking and choosing winners and losers, because we also see that when you look at investments you make, such as into electric vehicles, that has a pretty shaky ground. And it's best to allow the market to decide what's a good investment and what's not. Other ways we've seen them giving away money, and I've called this out, is helping out quote-unquote small businesses. One of the things I've called out here, this happened about 2 months ago, was the state of Kentucky spending $1 million to buy distillery equipment for a for-profit bourbon distillery company to open up in Bourbon County, Kentucky, in Paris, Kentucky. Obviously, the government shouldn't be in the business of distilling liquor. That is obviously a private industry, but also at a time where we see so many bourbon distilleries going belly up. I believe we've seen 3 or 4 filing for bankruptcy just here in Kentucky. We've seen stock prices down on Jack Daniels, which isn't made in Kentucky, but its parent company is based here in Louisville, of course. We've seen that going down. Maybe it's not the best time to be investing in distilling, but obviously our state went ahead and spent $1 million on distilling equipment for a private company. I noticed, too, one of the other things I saw come across was $20,000 meant for a apparel company called Appalachian Apparel. And this kind of caught my eye because it was just literally cash for essentially a random small business to purchase T-shirt manufacturing equipment, which I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that love to get in the T-shirt business, and they just had a free $20,000 to buy equipment with. They would also get into it. I don't begrudge the company for taking advantage of it. I mean, you got to get it when you get it. Get yours. Like many of you know, I'm a small business owner myself. And look, if the state's just going to be handing out cash, I mean, who am I to say no? You can say that's hypocritical, but whatever. I'm the one getting cash from the government. No, I'm mostly kidding. I'm not kidding at all. I'd totally take the money. But the point is that it's more about the fact that the government shouldn't be picking and choosing who to give this money to. And so they decided to give $20,000 to this apparel company. Now, the thing that was interesting about Appalachian Apparel Company, LLC, which is who in the government contract there it was supposed to go to, that company doesn't exist in Kentucky. It hasn't existed since 2021. According to the state records that were filed here, what we see, according to the Secretary of State's website, is that they haven't filed their annual report since 2021. And so it's been effectively dissolved by the state. It's an inactive business and bad standing with the state. Now, the owner of that business, and I'm not attacking the owner, so I'm not going to tell you his name, but the owner of that business does own another LLC that was opened in 2024 that's in the apparel business. If I had to guess, that's probably the business he's actually operating under. So he's probably not doing anything illegal. He's just operating under this different business. However, for some reason, despite there not being a DBA saying I'm doing business as an Appalachian Apparel Company, LLC, the state was giving money to this company that doesn't exist anymore. Shouldn't this have been researched, double-checked? If Andrew Cooperrider, I'm just a guy. Yeah, sure, I'm on your radio or TV or in your headphones or listening in your Bluetooth speaker. But I am just a guy like you. I have no special access. I have less access to government records than, the government does. And if I, in like 10 minutes, found out that this LLC we were going to give $20,000 to doesn't currently exist, shouldn't the state have figured that out before they put in the request for the money with the contract wrote up? Now, the owner of the business did chime in and he said, look, we are still active. As I said, he's probably active under the other business. And he said, we decided not to take the money because of all the politics involved. Which, good on him. If he doesn't want to take the money, doesn't want the strings attached, hey, good for him. As I kind of indicated earlier, he's probably a better man than me, honestly. But it does point that out. So this isn't an attack on the business. Actually, I'd encourage you. It looks like a nice business, and their products are not overpriced. So if you want to check out the Appalachian Apparel Company, for some reason their landing page says under construction. But if you go to their shop, you can still buy T-shirts, and last I looked, they were like $15. So go for it, right? Buy some stuff from this guy. It's probably better than buying something off Amazon Basics or something like that. But anyways, so it's, once again, not an attack on him, but this just shows how careless they are with our tax dollars. Now, this money was coming from the coal severance fund. This is a tax levied onto coal producers in order to help pay for the fact that back in 1990, the Clean Air Act kind of moved our coal jobs out of Kentucky, and they created this coal severance fund to help the counties where the coal jobs are being moved out of, and as people move off coal, to help them reestablish business and reestablish these kinds of things. Now, I would argue, one, people want to argue that, well, this isn't tax dollars. Well, it is tax dollars. You're paying for it one way or another. I mean, the government doesn't produce anything. They tax somebody. And in this case, they're taxing coal-producing companies, which in turn means your energy costs are more. So it's all kind of bundled into your energy bill. If you're getting coal-fired from Kentucky Coal, and many of us are here in Kentucky, so if you're getting power from a coal-fired plant from Kentucky Coal here in Kentucky, you are paying for this fund. I pay it. I'm in a coal-fired area getting coal-fired power. And so therefore, in my bill, it's higher because of this tax. So to claim somehow that, well, this isn't really tax money. This is just random money that, where'd it come from? The sky? Did a stork deliver it like it delivers new babies? Did a stork show up with sacks of cash and a little sack under its beak and just hand it to Kentucky and say, now please spin this on apparel equipment? Of course not. At the end of the day, government doesn't create anything. All it can do is take from your pocket. Now they can try to hide this however they want to. They can call it this fund or that fund, or, well, that's the road fund and that's this fund and that comes from here and that's not tax money because it's coming from the federal government. It's all coming from the same place at the end of the day, your pockets, the taxpayer's pocket. And it also encourages, once again, picking and choosing winners and losers. So how should we be spending this money? Well, I tell you what, maybe instead of giving out 20 grand here or there based upon whatever parameters they're making up at the time, what if we took that money and invested it into infrastructure so that way all businesses in the area can survive better? Better roads, better power, better utilities, I don't know, better internet, better all these other things that can facilitate all businesses having an equal opportunity to succeed in these areas. I understand you took away a industry from there, and that was a problem created by the government, but perhaps those funds that you're now putting together to fix that should go towards elevating everyone and not just a select few. Well, if you've got comments, questions, you can text 502-571-0970. We'll be back in a few short minutes.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
And you're back here on Kentucky's Voice, your host for the day, Andrew Cooprider. If you're hearing what I'm saying and you're just like, ooh-wee, I want more. Well, what you can do is head over to theandrewshow.com, hit the Listen Now tab. I do this show on Wednesdays normally. I was off the last 3 weeks, but I'm back and I'll stay with you here through the holiday season on Wednesdays. But if you're listening to this on Wednesdays and you're saying, I want to hear them again, well, head over to theandrewshow.com. You can also listen to the Andrew Cooprider Show right here on WGTK on Sundays at 6 and also on Wednesdays at 11 on WBNA if you just want to see this beautiful face. I know what you're thinking. I have to see it. Well, you better tune in. Now, before the break, I was talking about some issues with money going out in Eastern Kentucky, some coal severance funds in order to help out the area. But, you know, one of the things that this money, instead of being handed out 20 grand here, 30 grand there, since it's about coal in the first place, it could have been spent into recovering the area and setting up some retaining walls / some water mitigation effects to deal with the flooding that has gone on in the area. Now, one of the ways the flooding has happened, and a reason why the flooding has happened, is because the coal companies coming into the area through there, what they've seen as they're mining, they alter the runoff and the water runoff, and it can create flooding in areas where historically there hasn't been flooding. And so the state, in order to help deal with the fact that there was this flooding going on, and they're constantly having to spend money helping people out in the area with recovery efforts and as such, well, they've decided, well, let's do this. We think a cheaper route will be to spend $8.2 million to acquire floodplain properties in Pike, Letcher, McLean, and Floyd counties. So that was approved early this month, okay? And how this breaks down is they're sending $3.1 million to the Pike County Fiscal Court. They're sending $1.7 million to Letcher County Fiscal Court, $560,000 to McLean Fiscal Court, and then $2.8 million to Floyd County Fiscal Court. And then those fiscal courts can use that money to buy up the properties. Now, what are they going to do with the properties? I don't know. I mean, if you look at it this way, too, the program is being done through the USDA NRCS, which requires that they offer, I think it's 75% of fair market value. I don't know what the fair market, because let's just look at the person in that area. Okay, now there is debate on whether or not the taxpayer should be on the hook for this at all. Right now, if you chose to live in a floodplain, a lot of people would argue, look, that's where you're living. You can move or you can live there and adapt to the area. And if you can't adapt to the area, why is it that your decision to live there should be something that the rest of us have to pay for? Because after all, freedom doesn't mean you're free from the ramifications of your actions. However, if this has been caused by the coal companies and their mining, creating this runoff, which is now flooding areas that priorly wouldn't flood, wouldn't the coal companies be the one on the hook to fix the area? Shouldn't that be what the coal severance fund is going to, instead of buying T-shirt manufacturing equipment or distillery equipment or anything else for small businesses in the area? Shouldn't be going to those kinds of infrastructure products. But instead, $8.2 million of your tax money has to be used to buy this out. Now, what they're going to do with it, I don't know. I mean, they can use it for recreation. I guess they could build golf courses there. Famously, golf courses are typically built in these kinds of floodplain areas. You could try some other kind of recreational type activities that maybe aren't as affected by flooding. Could be some opportunities there. But it is worth debating when we have these kinds of decisions being made of spending this kind of money, $8.2 million. What is the taxpayers' hook there? How much should it be? How much should it fall to them, and how much should it not? Speaking of taxpayers, though, before I left, I'd talked to Shannon Denniston. He was on talking about the tax fight in Powell County going on for a recall. And then also I had on a gentleman by the name of Levi who was talking about the tax fight going on in Shelby County. For those of you unaware, the school boards there raise taxes beyond the 4% level. So every year your school boards can raise your taxes 4%. If they raise it beyond that, the amount that they raise it beyond that can be recalled. And the amount that the Powell County Fiscal Court was raising it was 16%. Now, they called it the nickel tax, but, 5 cents of 45 cents is more than just 5% increase. It's not just a nickel. It's a percentage increase. In this case, it was 16% was the total increase. But that was successfully recalled. The group there got together. They got the signatures. They got them submitted. That vote was held, I believe, last night. And it passed, or it was defeated 60-40. So 60% of people voted to not allow the increase. 40% of people voted to allow the increase, which leads me to this question. Who are these other 40% of people? This is why we can't have nice things. Because 40% of you are like, no, you tax me harder, Daddy. I mean, come on. 40% of you were like, you know what? I don't pay enough taxes. Now, you may say that, it's going to this school or that school or this or that. It really doesn't matter. If the school district needs more funding and they're not able to get it, you're taxed to death already. We're all taxed to death. The government makes almost more than you do off of your labor. When you add up our sales tax and our vehicle tax and our gas tax and this tax and that tax and this tax, and then you look at how much is coming out of your paycheck and everything else, probably half of your income is going towards paying taxes, if not more. And there was 40% of people out there in Powell County that were like, Now, granted, the school district hasn't gone up in the number of people. In fact, it's gone down in the number of students it's servicing. But you know what? I want to be taxed more. And, this thought process and this kind of inability to understand what's going on. I saw this post on social media the other day. It was a comment from somebody, and this was on the Thomas Massey Rand back and forth, whatever you want to call it. And they made a comment that to me I couldn't believe what they said. So this is what they said. They said that they didn't want, let's see here. There it is. They wanted to vote. Essentially, they're saying, I wanted to vote against Rand Paul in this next election, but he's not my senator. Instead, I have old Mitch. This person shouldn't be allowed to vote. If they don't know that both Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell are your senators, you can't have Mitch McConnell as your senator and not also Rand Paul as your senator. They're both senators of Kentucky. The entire state of Kentucky elects both of them just on different years. And if they don't understand that, can we ban this person from voting, please? Like, this isn't even about little, the state House of Reps is 2 years and the state Senate's 4-year terms, but federally speaking, Congress is 2 years and then federal senators are 6 years and they just don't quite understand that, or, they don't know who their congressman is exactly because it's changed 4 times because they're in one of those counties that got redistricted. I get that. I hear that. Maybe you're confused. You don't know what's going on, or your state House rep has changed because you were redistricted, so you don't know who to vote for there. I hear you. But if you don't know that if both Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul are voted statewide in the state of Kentucky, are voted on statewide, and they're both your senator, I don't think you should be allowed to vote. But what you should be allowed to do is save some sweet, sweet money, and you can do that too coming into this holiday season. That's right. That's a nice transition into a little bit of a ad read here. So Shopping Kentuckiana, what you do there is you can buy 50% off gift cards. Everybody loves a gift card during the holiday season, especially if you're buying for the grandkids. Instead of buying them a toy, they'll probably break in 20 minutes, 30 minutes after getting it, or a Lego set that they end up putting together and then just staring at for the rest of their life until it falls off a shelf and then their parent ends up stepping on it and hurting their foot. You could instead buy them memories, like a gift card to Malibu Jacks or a gift card to Malibu Jacks is nice. I do like Malibu Jacks. And you can get that. You can get them a $100 gift card for just 50% the cost by visiting shoppingkentuckiana.com. Once again, that's shoppingkentuckiana.com. I'll be back in a few short minutes.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And you are back here on Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host for the day, Andrew Cooper-Ryder, here to bring you all the news, all the information you need to hear, things going on in Kentucky. If you love my voice, head over to theandrewshow.com. You can listen to my weekly show there, more than when I just guest host here on Wednesdays. But I'll be with you. I believe I'm scheduled now to the end of the year to be with you on Wednesdays. So you can stay tuned in right here. Keep hearing this wonderful, beautiful voice of mine. I know you guys love it. But if you want to chime in, you got your own thoughts on what I'm talking about, you can go ahead and text 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. In this final segment, I'll go through any texts that come in. So 502-571-0970. So while I was off, I posted something pretty controversial, and I want to lay this out because this is going into a realm where people don't like to, frankly, they don't like to hear it. And well, you know what? Don't care. I have things to say, and so here you go. I posted about a teacher's pay, right? So there is an elementary school art instructor. Fayette County Public Schools going through tons of financial turmoil. And so with that, they created a employee searchable database where you can see how much people are being paid. And I happened across a elementary school art instructor being paid $83,856 a year plus benefits and everything else. And I just made a simple comment, saying, wow, 83 grand a year to be an elementary school art teacher. That seems high. I'm not about to say all teachers get paid this much. I know they don't. I know of teachers in Fayette County schools that are teaching core subjects like math and reading who are getting paid significantly less than this. This is just something I happened across, and it struck me. And oh boy, the call went out. The teachers put up their bat signal and they said, oh no, we got somebody questioning our narrative that teachers have the worst job on the planet. Now, granted, I'm not going to sit here and pretend all teachers are paid amazing. I know in our rural areas, teachers obviously are still some of the highest paid people in the county, but they're, comparatively speaking, for the job they're doing, they're probably not being paid enough. But in general, when we look at teaching, like I just want to be really honest here. okay, it's not a bad gig. All right, I get it. It's not something I would do because I don't like kids. I barely like my own child. I love them, but like them. But that being stated, even though it's maybe not something I would do, it's not a bad gig, right? I mean, you have off every major holiday. You do get time off during the summer. I know it's not popular to say, and people sit there and say teachers work 8 hours a week and you don't understand, and they're working all through summer too, and they're not. I know they're not. You know how I know they're not? When I was in high school, I was a lifeguard, and you know who the pool managers were in Fayette County? Teachers. Teachers were the pool managers. In fact, the pool director for the summer was a teacher going by the name of Killian Timoney, who ended up being a house rep, who I advocated against, who ended up getting defeated viciously in a contested primary this past time. But he was like the pool manager for the entire Parks and Rec in Fayette County. And he was also a teacher. While he was also working in Fayette County schools, by the way, he was also a state house rep. So, I don't know. You can weigh that as much as you can. So I know that during the summer, they do get other jobs. So clearly they're not working all through the summer. And they have off 2 weeks, Thanksgiving, Christmas. There's a lot of businesses, a lot of jobs you work that you don't have that. And I'm not going to say teachers don't work hard. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying, though, is that if we compare the amount of hours they work to like an average Kentuckian on salary over the course of a year, they do work less. And on average, teachers are paid around $55K a year here in Kentucky. I'm not saying they're paid necessarily even high. I'm just saying that this adage that they have to be paid more, I don't necessarily as much buy into. But that's okay. You can disagree with me there, and I'm sure a lot of you do. But one of the things that people kept commenting when I brought this up was that, well, that's because this person has a master's. You go to school for 6-7 years and get a master's degree and then work this place and that place, and they don't come by that money easy. And there's first off, if we have a system in place that you need a master's degree to teach kindergartners how to finger paint, what is going on here? Right? And it doesn't matter what degrees you have. I know, once again, this is controversial to say, but Bill Gates mopping a floor is still doing as much work and value as a janitor does. So he's paid as much of a janitor. It doesn't matter that he's got all this other experience that has nothing to do with the job he's doing, per se. But also, once again, why do you need a master's for that? Also, let's bring this up, and I know you're going to hate me saying this, but let's challenge the idea that you really even need it is bonkers to me. It's absolutely crazy to me that you need a 4-year degree or a master's to a general degrees to teach. First, let's recognize that all of us agree that every parent, whether you realize or not, what you're saying is every parent is capable of teaching a kid how to read, a kid how to do math, a kid how to do this. One way of homeschooling that people are allowed to do. Also, time and time again, we talk about how parents need to be working more with their kids, teaching them to read and everything else, especially in elementary school education. Now, granted, when you get into high school and you're talking about advanced physics and things like that, you probably, and I'll return to that in a second, you should probably have some higher degrees there, but I'll get to that. But for your general teaching a couple of kids, we all agree we have the ability to do. But some do it better, some don't. So now we're talking about teaching 20 kids, and granted, I agree, there are things you need to learn. But could that be a 2-year certificate? Does it have to be a master's degree? Because if we didn't require the master's degree, we wouldn't have to pay teachers $100,000 a year. Just something to think about, just plugging that out there, just for you to munch on. Also, it's not even important. Okay, here's another thing. Okay, for those of you that are like, no, you have to have this degree in education to teach your kids. What are you talking about? Okay, do you know that if you just have a bachelor's degree in literally anything, it could be in dance theory, lesbian feminism, it could be in art, it could be in history, it could be a 4-year degree in music. You are now qualified in all of our school districts across this entire state to be a substitute teacher, sometimes for months on end if somebody's on maternity leave. You're now qualified for months on end to teach any subject. Any subject. You're allowed to teach with just a general 4-year degree in anything as a substitute. And sometimes, like I said, you're subbing for months on end sometimes. So are we selling those kids short? Are we acknowledging that kids are sold short when a teacher goes on maternity leave for 8-9 months? Or are we acknowledging that, you know what? You can kind of learn how to teach these kids through an apprenticeship programs, 2-year certifications, everything else. And if it didn't cost so much to become a teacher, we'd probably have more teachers. Because they want to talk about these teacher shortages happening in all these different places. We'd probably have more. And then the other thing that's kind of crazy to me and bonkers to me is that this elementary school art instructor has the same qualifications and pay level as a teacher teaching advanced physics in high school to STEM students. Literally, they could be transferred to like another subject, and they're qualified to teach it. Does that make any sense? Now, I post about it. People are commenting about, well, they have the master's and they have this. They have all this education, everything else. I don't care how we got here. I'm pointing out that this system is crazy. Yes, teachers should be paid differently based upon the subject that they're teaching. That may sound crazy to some of you. I'm not saying art's not somehow important. And I get it. It's artistic expression, how to address yourself, how to draw, how to make shapes and everything else. That can be very helpful general skill. I'm not saying it's not. But at a time where our school districts, not even half the kids are graduating proficient in reading and math, maybe the good reading and math teachers should be paid a little bit more. Maybe we should be taking a good hard look at the fact that an art teacher and a physics teacher in high school, an elementary art teacher and a physics teacher in high school, have the same qualifications. Maybe that should be something we're talking about. But if you try to bring it up, oh, you're the bad guy. Are you saying you don't like teachers? Teachers work so hard, you must hate them. No, not at all. I think there's a lot of teachers out there that should get paid more. I also think there's a lot of teachers out there that probably shouldn't be a teacher anymore. And certainly shouldn't be paid as much as they are for the value they're delivering. And I think our system is kind of crazy because there is no private company out there that works this way. There's no private company out there that says no matter what you're doing, it's about the amount of time and degrees you have, and that's what you're getting paid. It doesn't work that way in the private sector. And the private sector gets generally good results on a lot of things. Private schools, great results on a lot of things. Better results. Hence why people are willing to pay $15,000 a year to send their kid there versus the free alternative run by a bunch of people that apparently have an art teacher in elementary school can pay the same as a physics teacher in high school, teaching college level courses. I'm just saying, and I know you got feelings about it. You can text me about it. 502-571-0970. I've read the comments on my posts about it. People don't like me saying the unsayable. But look, we have a school system trying to raise our taxes, massive percentages. We have 2 school districts in desperate positions, need help with their finances. But one thing we can't touch or possibly come across is the idea that a teacher needs a master's degree or a teacher needs a 4 years bachelor's degree to teach kids how to read in elementary school or to teach kids how to do art in elementary school or to teach kids to do anything in elementary school. I'm just saying, maybe we should look at specialized specific trainings. And I have more evidence on this. And if you want me to talk about more, you can text 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. I can fill you in with all my emotions on it. But this is Andrew Cooprider here, hosting Kentucky's Voice. Probably upsetting a lot of you, but that's okay. You listen to me for the entertainment, hopefully. But I'll be back in a few short minutes here on Kentucky's Voice.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And you are back here on Kentucky's Voice. Andrew Cooperrider, your host. We've got a few messages coming in we'll get to here in a second. If you want to get yours in real quick, you can text 502-571-0970, 502-571-0970 with your thoughts on the show. But while you're getting those in, I want to tell you about some Christmas deals you can use now. If your Christmas list is long and your budget feels short, we've got you covered over here. ShoppingKentuckyana.com has half-price deals that make everyone happy. You can grab $100 gift certificates for $50, $40 ones for $20, and use them right now. From pizza nights to mini golf to family adventures, there's something for everyone. It's the perfect way to give a meaningful gift, support local businesses, and keep some cash in your pocket. So before you spend full price anywhere else, check out ShoppingKentuckyana.com and find your half-priced holiday favorites today. We have Malibu Jacks near where I live. I like that. I like that place. I keep going back to it. I think it's fun. They added in a bar too, so you know the kids are driving you a little crazy. Anyways, so wait, I'm live on the air. I forgot. Inner thoughts leaking out. Anyways, so obviously talking about the teachers did bring up a few things here. One of the things was they said if teachers don't have advanced degrees, the college scam would be in jeopardy. I think that's exactly right. I was going to get into this if people brought it up, and I don't know. I guess this gives me an opportunity to get into it. So my son didn't learn to read from any of the certified 4-year, 6-year degree teachers in public schools. My son went to public schools from kindergarten to 3rd or 4th grade. He then switched over. He homeschooled for 1 year during COVID, and then he switched over to going to a private Christian school. And he was struggling with reading that entire time. And keep in mind, he's in public schools, everything else. And it wasn't until he went to private school that one of the teachers there said, "Hey, your son might have dyslexia. Let's suggest a tutor." And so a tutor who took a 3-month certification course in a dyslexia tutoring program. He's been going to her for about 1.5 years or so now, 2 years. He's now reading at grade level, above grade level. He can actually read and like write. And I was shocked by the turnaround here. And it took not a public school teacher with their required degrees, but it took a private school teacher that probably didn't have her master's to recognize he has dyslexia. And then the person who actually taught him to read was somebody with a 3-month certification. A 3-month certification did better than 4 or 5 years in public schools. So yeah, maybe requiring all these degrees to teach kids to read isn't as necessary as, some may say it is. I'm just throwing that out there. Here's the other thing here. We got Andrew. We still don't understand education is a privilege, not a right. And teachers' unions are the worst thing ever. First off, yeah, it's interesting when we talk about teaching is a privilege, not a right. Now, definitionally speaking, I agree with you because you cannot have a right to something provided by somebody else, right? So I have a right to liberty, property, the pursuit of happiness, but I have a right to purchase that property and to own that property. I do not have a right to property in the sense that if I don't own a piece of property, I can just walk up and say, that property is mine, I'm taking it from you. In the same way, healthcare can't be a right because you have to get it from a doctor. If you have to get your education from somebody else, because last I checked, in this country, slavery's been outlawed for like a long time. We actually fought a war over it. But because slavery is outlawed, you can't demand something from somebody else that requires somebody else's work and then call it a right. You can't do it. However, it is in our state constitution that the state has to fund a system of common schools. Also said teachers' unions are the worst. I'm with you there. I mean, this is an interesting fight going on in Fayette County Public Schools. And I know you guys, most of you listening don't live in Fayette County, but there's this interesting fight going on because you have 2 unions right now in Kentucky, 120 strong, and the Kentucky KEA, Kentucky Educators or Teachers Association or whatever. And they're both unions. And Tyler Murphy is a national director of KEA or the NEA, the National Educator Association, which is the parent of KEA. So he's there, and there's this fight of collective bargaining of what union are they going to do with? And like, it's been a huge battle during all the school board meetings are just dominated by this issue of which union to pick. So they are really fighting after these unions. Let's see here. We have, let's see. Your info is valuable. This needs to be printed and sent to every property taxpayer. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that nice comment back here too as well. I always appreciate it if I'm putting out information. Now, somebody did say that they didn't like. They said something about reminder that Kentucky's Voice or WGTK is a Louisville program, and they said, hey, let's talk more about Louisville things. I hear you 100%. It is called Kentucky's Voice, but it does, I think, local things going on in Louisville, if we can tie it back to, is always good. The one thing I would say to challenge you there is that when we are talking about schools, especially, from the majority, over 51% of state spending of not the pass-through federal dollars, but their general fund revenues, your tax revenues, your sales tax revenues, your income tax, those kinds of things. 51% of all those funds goes towards funding education. So while you may not live in Fayette County or Powell County or Shelby County, you may live here in Jefferson County, it is still your tax dollars being spent. And also, I think it speaks to an overall kind of rot within how we think about schools as a whole and an issue going on within our school districts. I'll give you an example, right? This is a funny headline here. This is local for those of you who want something a little more local. This came from, I believe, WBNA put this out. I'm not kidding you. This is a real headline. So here we go. WBNA put this out. Yearly audit shows JCPS finances strong and stable despite a $188 million budget deficit. That's a real headline from WDRB from like 4 or 5 days ago. Yearly audit shows JCPS finances strong and stable despite a $188 million budget deficit. That's like fiery, but mostly peaceful, isn't it? Like, yeah, sure, they have a $108 million deficit. Sure, yeah, JCPS is, in debt over $800 million, but they're stable. They're strongly and stably heading into the dirt. They're heading off a fiscal cliff, and, that's what we want, right? To see that going off into a cliff. Let's see here. Another comment came in. We chose to take the hard road and pull our kids out and scrape by on one income. It's hard, but I knew too many teachers. Yeah, I mean, a lot more people are turning to it. I mean, it's interesting to see that Kentucky's population is going up year over year by a few percentages. We're seeing shifts too in population, more people heading into the cities as well. Actually, this last redistricting, Eastern Kentucky lost a seat, Western Kentucky lost a seat, and Louisville and Lexington both gained another seat in the state house for districting purposes, just because of the population shifts. So you're seeing this population growth, but you're really not seeing it within the schools. The schools are not growing at the same percentage because a lot of people are saying, look, I'm going to pull my kids out. I see a system that's failing. And you'd think that would cause like an internal look. Like as that commenter just said, as that person who just sent in made that comment, you literally have a like free option. Do you know how bad your product has to be for people to be like, I'd rather spend 15 grand a year for one student to go somewhere else? Or how bad your product has to be to say, look, we're going to forego another income into the household, 30, 40, 50K a year, however much they're making. We're going to forego an entire income into the household so we can homeschool our kids because your product is that terrible. Look, I'm just saying. If that doesn't speak to the abject failure of our school systems within this state, I don't know what does. And the fact that they're talking about market shares and trying to hold on to things, it's just, I don't know. It's just pretty interesting to me as well. Let's see here. Anything else here? I don't know what this person's texting about. 4 million population, 120 counties, KY, 24 million population, 67 counties, Florida. What a jobs program. Oh, I see what they're talking about here. Yeah, so Kentucky has one of the most amount of counties. Thank you for, I understand what you're saying. My producer sent it to me and he's like, I have no idea what they're talking. I got you. I understand what you're saying. So Kentucky is one of those states that has like the second or third most amount of counties within the country. Okay? And this causes an expense because you have the sheriff, every sheriff in every county. You have the judge executive, every sheriff in every county. You have, of course, the fiscal court, magistrates in every county. And I mean, they're making good money. I mean, you're talking, if you just took, there's some counties that have like 6,000 people. If you combine some counties, I know nobody wants to do this, but if you combine some counties, you can actually really cut a lot of the expenses because it does come from the state. The state will issue payments out. And if you look at the Government Contract Review Committee, you'll see this happening where they're issuing payments to pay the salaries for these other counties. They're paying salaries for judge executives, for sheriffs, for magistrates. They're paying debt service for these counties. And it really is costing taxpayers statewide. You here in Louisville are paying for a lot of the salaries of rural counties that can't afford to do it here. And I think that really speaks to what you're pointing to there is, hey, look, there has to be some ways that we can look at this and say, we don't have the money for it. And if you want to go into school districts, there's like 150 school districts. There's not just 120. Because there's all these independent school districts within school. So like within a county, you'll then have a city that's for whatever reason decide they don't want a part of the county schools. And then they'll create their own independent school district within a county. That's rising up the cost. So you have that too as well. One final comment here. You cannot offer me $1 million to send them, talking about kids, send their kids to public schools. And I get that. I mean, your kids are, of course, your future. You take that very seriously. Well, we're coming to an end here on Kentucky's Voice. I've been your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider. Hopefully you guys enjoyed having me back here. I'll be back next week, I believe, on Wednesday. You can also check out the Andrew Cooperrider Show at theandrewshow.com. Till next time, we'll be seeing you.